Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'd like to switch gears a little bit and start talking about marketing. This is March. Temperatures are warming up in most places. It seems like the big nasty may be behind us. And in anticipation, people are going to be coming out of the woodwork looking for things. They are going to be heading to arts and crafts shows this year. That's been on a hiatus for all of 2020 and severely limited in 2021, depending on your location. This year, I anticipate it's going to be wide open and robust. So if you've been thinking about doing arts and crafts shows, stay tuned. I'll give you some pointers. 5 reasons why you should sell at arts and crafts shows. Number 1, make money. Yes, that's right. You actually can make money at arts and crafts shows. There are woodworkers who literally make their entire year's income at arts and crafts shows. I've talked to several of them. They spend all of the downtime, the winter months, in their shops making products. They'll do like the Christmas show and after Thanksgiving, the holiday shows. But most of that time, they're stuck in their workshop. Then in the spring, when things start to open up, and especially summer, they're on the road. Some of these people will load up and they'll travel from one end of the country to the other end of the country. They may make runs back through their hometown to resupply, but they're not making anything in the shop during those months. They are on the road selling. It's kind of a lifestyle for them. Some of these people have great big RVs that they've converted into a portable workshop where they can bang out a few simple products. Other people are just living in, campers or travel vans, things like that. It's a very unique way of living. You might just be thinking about, I need to get out there and sell some product and make some money. Great idea. This is how you can jump into this. But first, I don't want you to get your hopes up real high. Your first maybe half dozen shows might not be gangbusters. In fact, I remember my first couple shows, I was thrilled that I broke even, that I recovered my entrance fee for the show. And then I started to sell more product. And not only did I cover my entrance fee, but I also, in essence, paid for my time to be there. And it just improved from there. How much money can you make at an arts and crafts show? Anywhere from $0 to thousands and thousands of dollars. It really depends. When I was doing shows, kind of the general rule of thumb of what we would characterize as a good show was one that brought in at least 10 times the administration or the entrance fee. So if it cost you $50 to get into this show, you would expect to make at least $500 on that show, or it wasn't good. If the show's not good, you might not want to do it again. Great shows, ones that you make multiples over that, those are the ones that you want to find. Those are the ones you want to be in. So reason number 2 to do a craft show this year, marketing. Cheap marketing. If you're just kind of starting out in this, not really sure what you're doing, I cannot more highly recommend you do a craft show. Now, caveat, if your woodworking business involves building stairs, that might not fly at a arts and crafts show. But if you're kind of doing the standard woodworking thing, making cutting boards, turning bowls, doing some furniture, end tables, maybe a sideboard, wall cabinets, things like that, things that you can pick up and easily transport, fantastic idea to do an arts and crafts show just for the marketing value that you're going to receive. What do I mean by this? If you get into an arts and crafts show that has, let's say 5,000 people going through, and you talk to 5% of those people, 250 people. There you have an opportunity to speak to 250 people and get feedback on what they think of your work. You have to engage the potential customer. Hopefully, customers are asking you questions. You need to be asking them questions. And sometimes this kind of nonchalant, not really selling approach can really generate a lot of sales because you are communicating with the customer. Ask them, what do you like about this? What don't you like? Do you have any ways that you would improve this particular product? I don't know. It's a spatula, a spoon, a clipboard, whatever the product is. Get people's feedback. Big corporations pay big money for this type of marketing research. You can go and get this for free just by paying the entrance fee into the show. And don't let this opportunity to slip by for growing your email marketing list. Just have a clipboard, maybe one that you made, kind of custom, sitting there with just a sheet of paper, a simple form. If you'd like to stay in touch, leave me your name and your email, or maybe your address. And if I have news, I will send something out to you. Love to stay in touch with you. A lot of people who go to these shows are, what's that big fancy word? Philanthropists? They like to give money to deserving people and organizations, and you might be one of those deserving people. They would like to support you in your endeavors. I find this works very well if you are young and excited and full of energy, because chances are they are old, wealthy, and just hoping they see another day. And there's that transference of life energy, so to speak, from one being to another being. Take advantage of that. I mean, old people have supported young people ever since there's been young people or old people. You know what I mean. So don't be afraid to reach out and engage people. They can be a wealth of information. Number 3, make contacts. Yeah, I just talked about making contacts with potential customers, but now I'm talking about making contacts with other vendors. There are people there who have years, decades of experience. Take advantage of that. Introduce yourself. Tell them that this is your first arts and crafts show. Most of them will take pity on you. A lot of them will share helpful suggestions. They were young and a newbie once, and somebody helped them. And so now they're kind of returning the favor by helping someone else, and that is you. Pick their brain, but only at the right time. If their booth is absolutely swamped and you haven't had anyone in yours for the last half hour, that's not the time to go talk to them. Typically early in the morning during setup, after they have everything set up and are just kind of standing around waiting for things to happen, that's a great time to engage them. Oftentimes there's a little lull, in the crowds. That's a great time to engage them. But remember, they're here to make money. Don't do anything that could jeopardize that. If your booths are side by side and you're in their booth talking to them and a customer walks in, you walk out. Give them space. They will really appreciate it. Okay, reason number 4 why you should do an arts and crafts show this year. The experience. Simple as that. When you're driving home from your first arts and crafts show, your head will be spinning. You will have learned so much. You will have come up with so many different ideas. It's unbelievable. Now, one of your ideas may be never to do that again, but I think that's probably pretty rare. You're going to be thinking about all the things you forgot, all the ways you can improve, new products you could make because some of the people you were talking to suggested it. An excellent question to ask customers is there any wooden product that you would like to have that you haven't been able to find? Usually the lady will get this wide-eyed face light up and say, oh yes, my grandmother had an XYZ. I would love to have one like that. Do you make that? Or could you make that? Boom, new product line right there. So that's the value that you're going to bring home from your first, second, third, 100th arts and crafts show. Okay, finally, reason number 5, you should be doing an arts and crafts show. Because it's fun. Simple as that. You should have a really good time doing this. Yeah, anytime we do something we've never done before, we're kind of nervous. There's that fear of failure that seems to be ingrained into us. But just push forward and go for it. I really think you're going to have a lot of fun. All right, 3 reasons why you should not do an arts and crafts show this year. Reason number 1, it's a lot of work. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this, especially for your first arts and crafts show. You are going to put some time into this. This isn't something that you see an ad in the paper, if you still even read a newspaper, that there's an arts and crafts show next weekend in a nearby town. You're not going to just jump onto that and say, I think I'll join that. It doesn't work that way. There is a lot of preparation to get into an arts and crafts show, and a lot of preparation to get ready to be in an arts and crafts show. And this is kind of divided out in the time that you have to prep to get ready for your application to the arts and crafts show, and the time of getting all your ducks in a row for the arts and crafts show, and the time that you actually spend at the arts and crafts show. I mean, this is a full day's work. Typically, you'll get there at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, maybe 8, and some last 5 hours, 6 hours, some last 10 hours. It can make for a very long day. And this is on typically a Saturday. So, boom, so much for fishing that weekend. And after the show, you got to put everything away. You got to restow everything. You're working on your list of things that I can do better next time on, and a list of things that I need that I don't have. Reason number 2 for not doing an arts and crafts show this year. You are now in retail sales. You are no longer a woodworker. You are a salesperson. And for some people, that is absolutely terrifying. And hey, I get it. I was in sales for like 15 years. Some people can do it. Some people can't. You know yourself better than anyone. But if you're making sales, you're not making sawdust. This could be an incredibly uncomfortable way for you to spend a Saturday. Pro tip here. If you have a wife, a husband, maybe son or daughter, a good friend, see if you can get them to come with you to an arts and crafts show. If they are a big fan of your work, they can be tremendous salespeople. Sometimes we craftsmen are kind of reserved, kind of humble, and we don't really appreciate our work the way other people appreciate our work. And having a second party there can really do great things for sales. I know that my wife, whenever she, comes into the booth, it's like immediate. She is talking to people. She's pointing this out. She's pointing that out. And it's fantastic. It's fantastic just to watch how she works the crowd. So if you have someone like that in your life, good for you. You might want to see if you can enlist them. Also, it's wonderful for potty breaks. Number 3 reason you shouldn't do a arts and crafts show this year, it is just so far out of your comfort zone. This could really mess you up. And understand that. Some people just aren't cut out for that type of work. They would rather be up on a 3-story house, laying shingles on a hot August day than standing in a arts and craft booth in the middle of a major city. Totally understand. And once you make that decision, go on to something else. There's lots of good ways that you can market your business. Okay, let's say you are all in for this. You are ready to go. Let's go for it. There are two types of arts and crafts shows. There are juried shows and non-juried shows. What does that mean? A juried show is typically harder to get into, typically have a much higher earning potential, and might not be right next door to you. Usually you'll see these in larger cities, maybe tourist areas, someplace where there's a lot of people congregating. The non-juried show is more local in your community, oftentimes even small communities. They are sponsored by a church, a school, a community center. You'll find these in National Guard armories or in the local VFW. They're small, very community-oriented, and typically you don't have to do anything to get into them. You just kind of show up. So how do you find the art and craft show that is right for you? At one time, there used to be a book published. I don't think they're still doing that now with the internet. The book would have a listing of all the major arts and crafts show over the entire country, sometimes in other countries. And it was great. But now we have Google, and the only thing you need to do to find arts and crafts show is to Google it. Just arts and crafts shows near me, and you'll be amazed at what you'll find. You probably already know of a half a dozen arts and crafts show that you might be interested in. They may be local. You've probably even been to some of these. So start there. That's really one of the very best places that you can start. You have a familiarity with them. So once you've found a couple shows, you need to dig into the details. Most of these shows will have a website. In fact, I'll probably say all of these shows will have a website that lists the application process. Sometimes you can download the form. More often than not, you apply online. Read the details. What do they want? Pro tip, follow every detail. Because some of these shows are limited. They can only take 50 artists, but they might get 3,000 applications. So they need some way of whittling that down. One way is they're going to look at the people who were there last year, people who were there 10 years. So it is feasible, and every art show is a little different, that they only allow 1/2 new artists into the show. Because if the same people keep showing up year after year, the crowd can get a little stale with that. So they always want to bring in new blood. Yet at the same time, somebody who's been there for 25 years and the crowd depends upon them being there, they're going to keep those people in place. And depending on the show, some will let in only 10% new artists a year. Others, it's all over the place. But that's kind of what you're up against. So you need to follow every instruction to the letter. Find out what the deadline is for the application. Be early. Can't overemphasize that enough. Oftentimes, these things can fill up in just a matter of days. If they release the application on April 1st, the deadline is May 30th, that show could be completely full by April 7th. Your deposits, most shows will require a deposit to get into the show with the full amount paid like 30 days ahead of the show. Some shows will require an application fee, and that could be, well, it really depends on the show. The larger, bigger shows, that application fee is going to be, pretty high, and a small local show, it could be, $20, $40, something like that. You also need to find out what kind of show this is. Some shows are mixed. They try to cover all the various categories of art. There will probably be jewelry there, 2D art like photography, painting, 3D art, sculpture. Some shows really kind of push textiles, others ceramics. Make sure that there is a wood product category in the show. I wouldn't discourage you from not applying to a show that doesn't have a wood product because maybe they just didn't list it. If the registration fee is not very high, I'd give it a shot. You'll also have setup and teardown times listed on the application. Sometimes these can be a little restrictive. You have to be totally set up and ready to go by 8 o'clock in the morning. But the show doesn't open till 10. Most shows will not allow you to tear down until a certain time. If the show runs to 5 o'clock and it's been kind of a crappy show, the weather's not been very good, the crowds haven't been very good, it's been super hot, maybe it's been raining, and you just want to go home and everybody else wants to go home. And if you start breaking down at 4 o'clock, well, there's somebody from the show walking around and they are taking note of who is breaking down early and who is not. And if you're breaking down early to get out of there, chances are you might not get into the show the next year. People really do pay attention to that type of thing. So let's say you've narrowed down 2 or 3 shows that you're interested in. What are you going to need to make the application work for you? Now, I'm going to assume that this is a juried show. So how this jury works, there's a group of people who are putting on this arts and crafts show, and they will judge all the applications that come in. Typically, an application is going to require photographs, pictures of your work. And the simple fact that this is a juried show means that they're trying to keep out the folks who bought a kit at the local, arts and crafts store and put it together and now want to see if they can make some money. In fact, a lot of the applications will simply state no products made from kits. And these people are pretty knowledgeable. They can spot a kit, 3 blocks away. So they're going to need good photos of your product, which you should have. If you don't, you're going to need to get some. That could be an entirely new podcast episode. You're also going to need pictures of your displays, how you have things presented. You just have them scattered out on a card table, or have you put some effort behind this and built, some nice displays that present your products in a very favorable way? Likely, you will need photos of your booth. This is probably one of the bigger stumbling blocks for new people getting into their first show. The organizers want to see if you are serious about this because they only want serious artists in their show. And if you've never been in a show before, how do you have pictures of a booth? Now, if you're doing an indoor show, a lot of times this is not a big deal. They want pictures of your displays, but a lot of the shows outdoors during the summer, they want to see your booth. There's kind of a hierarchy, a pecking order of booths. There are some that are really sturdy, very well made. They will last 20 or 30 years, and they cost quite a bit of money, up around $1,000. And there are booths that are basically a 10 by 10 pop-up that you can get at your friendly, Sam's Club, Walmart, type store. Your big box store will have these. They run a couple $100. So they kind of want to see what you have. If you've cobbled something together, that may not be so good. I have been to shows where the artists have built their own booths that are incredibly elaborate. I mean, they themselves are a work of art, and I think they do very well. So that may be a big challenge for you. If you don't have a booth, a canopy, you're going to have to get one. And I would not spend a whole bunch of money on one right away. I would go for the less expensive option. You may not be really into this, and I wouldn't spend a whole bunch of money to just have to try to sell that and probably take a pretty big loss. You're going to need some type of display. That could be fold-up tables with nice tablecloths on them. Depending on what you're selling, you can make your own like little pedestals that you put your artwork on, such as an end table. It really kind of depends what you're doing. If you're selling pens, writing pens that you have turned, that's going to require a different display. Really look around and see what pertains to your particular product and come up with something there. A comfortable chair. Sometimes the show organizers will provide tables and chairs, so check with that. That should be in the details for the applications. Some other things you're going to need at a show is a sales tax certificate in most states. If you don't already have one, you should have done this quite a while ago. So contact your Secretary of State, figure out how you go about doing this. A lot of the jury shows, in fact, probably most of the jury shows, will want to see that. Most of the shows will want to see proof of insurance. Don't freak out here. This is not like buying life insurance or homeowners insurance. These personal liability insurance for a small business can be incredibly cheap. We're talking $200, $300, $400. And a quick Google internet search will uncover a number of different things. In fact, talk to your own insurance, your homeowner's insurance. You might actually already be covered for something like this, or they could write a small rider for just, a couple $100. There are insurance companies out there that target, craft show vendors, and they are incredibly competitive. You're going to need money, cash, and depending on where you are and how people use cash, a lot of customers will bring cash with them. They will bring $200, $300, $400 with them, expecting just to use cash for the transactions at this show. I think this is a technique that is kind of self-budgeting. If you really get excited about something and you got that credit card in your back pocket, yeah, it could be pretty easy to overspend here. So go to your bank, your credit union, and pull out $100. Couple 20s, a few 10s, some 5s, and a whole bunch of 1s. Try to price your product so that you're not doing coins, and you can round depending on your state where you may be charging sales tax. Include the sales tax in with the product. Make a little sign that says sales tax included in the price. That's the cleanest, easiest way of doing something. And don't be afraid to round up. No one's really going to be that picky about things. Do you accept checks? I don't know. If they were local, I probably would. There are stories about people going to art shows and writing a check for $700 and it's a totally bad check. That's kind of up to you. You make that call yourself. Credit cards. Yes. A lot of people who go to shows don't bring cash with them. They never use cash. You do need some way of collecting credit cards. Again, that's probably another episode. I have used PayPal in the past with good and not so great outcomes, but that was a number of years ago, and I am very guilty of using Jurassic period cell phones. So I think that's more on me than it is on PayPal. But there's a number of different point of sale systems out there that you can use, and you really probably should have. A lot of people will want to pay with credit card or debit card. And again, if you are applying to a non-juried show, they probably just want to make sure that you have a pulse and aren't selling, shrunken heads or something, totally weird like that. Okay, that's kind of a primer on doing arts and craft shows this summer. It is certainly not exhaustive. We have just touched the tip of the iceberg. A couple tips I have for you. Go to arts and craft shows this summer. Take notes. Talk to vendors. Of course, during their downtime. This could be an excellent thing to do while on vacation. Totally different region, different area, different people, different products. Talk to vendors. Pick their brain. You can learn so much this way. Tip number 2 for you. When you're in a show, you're set up, you're receiving customers, don't be a stump. What do I mean by that? These are the typically guys who sit in the back of their booth on a chair on their cell phone. Really? You've spent probably hundreds of dollars to get into this show. You may have traveled hundreds of miles to be in this show, and you're sitting there on your cell phone. I mean, unless it's an absolute emergency, you need to be paying attention to your customers. You need to be engaging customers, even if you don't feel like it. If you can't do this, maybe you shouldn't be at a show. As a former retail person, this drives me up the wall. Some of these guys have the idea that if you really want to buy something, you'll approach me. Yeah, next booth, please. Remember, there is no sale without conversation. And tip number 3, be narrow. I made a horrible mistake when I started out doing shows. I would bring every single thing I ever made to the show. I mean, it was like a smorgasbord. I had all kinds of stuff. And people at shows have kind of blinders on, a very narrow field of view. And if they really have to hunt, they kind of get confused and they kind of lose interest and they drift away. So if you make 10 different products, maybe only bring 3 of them with you. Rotate them throughout the shows. Figure out which ones are really working. Don't try to be everything to everyone. Stay focused. And the best tip of all may be your tip. If you are a seasoned craft show salesperson, woodworker, please drop me a line. Let me know what your number 1 tip is. And the best ones I will share with you at a later date. Recommendations for the week. I found 2 websites that I was very impressed with. The first one was madeurban.com, and they have everything there. They've written several ebooks on the craft show industry, how to apply, how to make money, how to buy insurance, some really good articles on there. I think it's well worth you checking out. And the other one was called Best Things. This is a way to find craft shows in your area. In fact, all over the entire United States. And links are in the show notes. Their domain is Best Things, and then the 2-letter code for your state. So if you're in Alabama, it would be bestthingsal.com. Google it, you'll find it. You can check out different states, different shows. I thought it was very impressive the way they did that. And of course, YouTube. Oh my gosh. Just type in a search for craft shows, how to sell at craft shows, best products for craft shows, best wooden products for craft shows. You'll find just endless listings for what looked like to be very good videos. I didn't spend a whole bunch of time watching them, but seems to be a lot of really good information there. Missed jobs for the week? Lots. Yeah, the phone was ringing this week, and everything from repairing furniture to repairing doors to making shelves, and I had to turn about 96% of all that down. I had a couple of my longtime customers contact me for small projects, and I have taken them on because I like to take care of my good, loyal, long-time customers who are also friends. So I want to thank you for listening to the Working at Woodworking podcast today. My name is Roger Kugler, and if you'd like to reach out with your tips on a successful craft show, please email me at roger@workingatwoodworking.com or give me a call. Love to chat with you about that. 812-325-9823. And for more information about the podcast, you can visit the webpage at workingatwoodworking.com. Thank you so much, and happy woodworking.